People need to be educated on the minimum wage. Every time we raise the minimum wage, the number of jobless people increases.
It was good to hear that from Ben Carson this week. Previously, he'd said nice things about a minimum wage. Maybe the doctors learned some economics in the meantime, or logic. If you raise the price of something, you do get less of it. But the big government-loving media ran so-called fact checks on the debate. The New York Times claimed economists disagree, 40%. We're not sure if a higher minimum wage will reduce unemployment. Leave it to the Times to cite a survey where economists said we're not sure. But most economists are pretty sure, because 85% of the studies in the last 25 years show raising the minimum does cause a little job loss. I doubt the Times will ever report fairly on this, but I was glad to see that some Republicans candidates now do get the principle. And
if you raise the minimum wage, you're going to make people more expensive than a machine. And that means all this automation that's replacing jobs and people right now is only going to be accelerated.
It's so true, and yet most Americans support raising the minimum wage.
They support raising the minimum wage because they don't understand what the ramifications of that really mean. It sounds like more money in your pocket, but what it really means is that there are going to be fewer people having fewer jobs, that you're going to have to make cutbacks, that you're going to have longer hours for those workers.
Republicans seem to be getting that now.
Yes.
It's like it's been an education process.
Well, they need to hone those arguments right now and do even a better job than that. 'Cause it's not true that every time that they've done it, it's led to less jobs. There's probably been a couple of cases where it didn't actually lead to most jobs, but making the moral argument and the practical large argument is important, because Bernie Sanders is going to push Hillary Clinton further and further to the left on this issue. And I think Democrats don't realize the extent to which their lefty economics, which is far to the left than it was 20 years ago, doesn't necessarily play very well. Democrats are getting hammered all over the country outside of certain zones. And
really, I think it plays well. Free stuff.
The new normal in the minimum wage among liberals, among Democrats, is $15 an hour. You had the rally, the Fight for 15, the big protest on that Tuesday. But all you need to do is listen to any CEO that runs, say, a fast food chain or a restaurant chain. The CEO of Buffalo Wild Wings talks about, hey, we are likely not going to open new restaurants in places like Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and elsewhere, because a lot of our people are very young when we hire, and we're not going to take a risk on somebody and have to pay them $15 an hour.
It's just common sense. And the larger issue on the left these days is income inequality.
Middle class of this country is collapsing. We have 27 million people living in poverty. We have massive wealth and income inequality.
We do have massive income inequality. The rich got much richer, and, say Democrats, the poor got poorer. They say that all the time, but it's just not true. The poor didn't get poorer. Over the past 30 years, the rich have dramatically increased their wealth. When people are free, they'll do that. But disposable income increased across all groups. The middle fifth gained 40%, the bottom fifth, 48%. Yet they get away with this lie, the poor getting poorer.
It really is a lie, and I think that it's also indicative of how backwards their economic approach is. You heard the president, a few weeks ago talking about how the real crisis for the middle class in America was the decreasing strength of unions, things of that nature. They really have a very backwards 1970s view of this economy. They don't understand that a lot of the problems that they're criticizing are actually due to their own policies in terms of what they've required of government when it comes.
I fear the public doesn't realize.
That's true. It's something Republicans are going to have to learn to explain.
Rand Paul in the debate tied income inequality to the Federal Reserve, and I disagreed with some of what he was saying, but it has the easy money policy since 2008 has helped the rich.
Some rich people.
And with savers, it's really hurt them. But that being said, I disagree with what he was saying about, well, he was saying that the dollar depreciates and you get less for your money. And in fact, since 2008, the dollar is up about 22%, and inflation is, well, not going anywhere
at the moment. And more important than what people's incomes are, isn't what counts mobility? Do you have a chance to move from the bottom to the top? And people do. They've crunched the numbers. Economists at Harvard and Berkeley crunched them on 40 million tax returns. 64% of the people born to the poorest fifth rise out of the lowest quintile. 11% rise all the way to the top quintile.
Yeah, we need those numbers to be even higher. But that's what people should be focusing on in general. And also on the fact that we've had the greatest economic story of the last quarter century, being more than 1 billion people lifted out of extreme poverty in the world. Name me one of those countries that did so based on policies to reduce income inequality. It didn't happen. The policies that they embraced are the opposite of those types of policies.
Free markets, capitalism, not crony capitalism, limited government. But so many people don't get that.